Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today I made Eric watch the old Showtime chestnut, Safehouse, with Patrick Stewart. Now there are 2 or 3 or 4 movies called Safehouse. This is probably the lesser known of all of them.
On Wikipedia, when I looked it up, it was this, and then a movie from 2012.
Okay, so there's just the 2. I remember there was a movie that came out
Denzel Washington.
a few years ago called Safehouse, and I was like,
Probably a remake.
oh, now when I... Almost certainly not. Although, I would not mind seeing Denzel in this role. But anyway, so whenever I talk about this movie now, I have to qualify it and be like, no, not the one that people actually saw, this thing. So I'm sure 6 of you have seen this movie. It'll be interesting to see who in the comments has actually watched this before. And this is a thing that I bought, or actually I rented a couple of times back in the early 2000s at a rental store, back when that was still a thing. And they had a huge selection of things, and I found this, and anything with Patrick Stewart, I had to see. And not that I've seen everything he's ever made, but whenever I would run into a thing I didn't know about, I'd be like, ooh, I'm curious, and I would look at it, and that's why I watched this. And it just absolutely cracked me up. And I think the first time I saw it, I thought it was a better movie than I think it is now, by a long shot.
As in, you think you legitimately thought it was a better movie, or you thought it was, like, funnier than you think it is now?
No, I thought it was... well... Both? I mean, certain things that I think are funny about this now would not surprise a lot of people now as much as Patrick Stewart has had
He's kind of a character now.
A longer and more illustrious in his career, and he's done more stuff. And he's done more comedy things, and I think people now, and of course, I was a kid, so I didn't know as much, and I pretty much just knew him for Star Trek and X-Men, of course, and I knew he was a stage guy, so I always think of Patrick Stewart as Shakespearean, and I don't think of him as a funny guy, even though he does some amusing things in things that I see him in. And this is not like a straight-up comedy. I mean, that's the reason to watch it. It doesn't know that, I don't think. But, I mean, there are things that it does that it comedic that it does intentionally, and then other things where I'm definitely laughing at it before I'm laughing with it. But I guess my point is, I watched this and couldn't believe I was seeing Patrick Stewart saying the F word and things like that, and thought that was really funny. So I started showing it to people, and I bought a copy at some point because I had rented it probably 2, 3, 4 times. I said a couple, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I rented it a few times, and I finally bought a copy and I started showing it to people. I had a high school Star Trek club before I started my other one after high school, and we had a marathon that we did after school hours, and so the guy who sponsored my club, who was the film teacher there, he was a really cool guy, and he let me show this, and of course it's basically rated R, and it's got F-bombs and things, and so, we were seniors in high school. I think it was really cool. We got to watch something like this, at the school. And so this is the first time in a lot of years I've gotten to show this to someone. And one of my favorite things is seeing reactions to people for this crazy movie. So I guess we'll throw out a real quick plot synopsis, and then you can talk about what you thought of it.
Okay.
The
cover spoils it.
And you can help me out with it. I was going to mention, this is one of, if not the worst taglines for anything I've ever seen. His paranoia is as real as his killer. Well, the whole movie, the entire time, if you know that, skip to the end. Because the whole movie is trying to make you guess at whether or not Patrick Stewart's character, Mace Soul... What a terrible name for anything. Anyway, Mace. He stands for short for in your face.
That's not him making a joke. That's in the movie.
No, that's in there. That it's trying to make you guess as to whether or not he's actually being hunted down by this corrupt politician who's running for president, who he claims hired him years ago as basically a hitman. I mean, a private hitman, I think.
Well, I don't think it's that I hired him. He was running like a black ops division of the government.
Yeah, and he was working for him. Yeah. But he was part of his private group, they say. So I assume that he handpicked these people.
Yeah.
That's why I said that. But anyway, so he's paranoid, and you're trying to decide whether or not he has a reason to be paranoid, and he's really eccentric, and he does a lot of things that seem quirky and strange, and he probably isn't actually what he claims he is, but then there's some evidence here and there that maybe he is. And he's also got Alzheimer's, or he got the onset of Alzheimer's, and so that confuses the issue. But then by the end, it turns out that the lady who comes to live with him to
as like a stay in
as a stay at home housemaid / caretaker is actually working for this guy running for president, Michael Moore, and he tries to kill him at the 11th hour at the end, and that's basically the movie. But yeah, it tells you right on the box whether or not it's really happening.
So the first thing I'll say about this movie, the props I will give this film, is how long they hold the reveal, because I legitimately didn't know until it happened.
That's cool. Me too. And I think that's why I thought it was a better movie than I do now.
And because I went back and forth throughout the film, and there was a point where the bad filmmaking almost protects the mystery better, because there's things where I'm like, well, no, he must have been a spy because of this, this, and this. I'm like, well, but it's a Showtime movie. Like, the big one near the end was the tracker. I'm like, he has a functioning tracker, but it's a Showtime movie.
So you're like, some of the things he's doing he couldn't possibly be doing unless there was truth to what he was saying. But then they could easily just be like, nope, psych, and it doesn't have to make sense because they've already got things that are just silly and screwy and feel like kind of a high school script. Like, it's an amateurish script.
Well, and like if
both in dialogue and a lot of the plotting, I think.
Like, even if the computer program he is running on his computer is fake, either he made it or someone made it for him, and how would he be able to get that?
Yeah.
Like, there's stuff like that where I'm like, I don't know, because this isn't a particularly well-written film.
Yeah.
It heightens the tension.
That's good. Or you don't trust it.
Yeah, I don't. So I was kind of surprised by the ending, because I was writing off all the clues as bad filmmaking.
I think it's a lot worse of a movie if he isn't actually right. Don't you, or could that or could that still work? Could you still
I
spin
think
it
that can still work.
I guess if he murders her or something. I mean, I could kind of see that.
I think it can still work, but it has to be a better written and directed film. I think there's certainly a film about Alzheimer's to be made in this vein. My biggest thing about this film is I would kind of like to see it remade with a better script. I think it's a really interesting idea.
The premise is great.
Yeah. The way they use the Alzheimer's I don't particularly like, especially at the end.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's the TV thing to do, isn't it? Where he can't remember his name. And like I guess the trauma, I could see that sort of doing it to you, but
well, I guess the guy says like any kind of stress could cause.
It could get a lot worse. And he says it could spiral out of control real fast.
Yeah, it needed to be getting there already.
It feels too.
It seems like he was getting better.
I don't know if O. Henry's the right word, but the right term. But you know what I mean?
I know.
We're supposed to be like, like it's a big surprise ending.
He is both having mental issues and he was telling the truth.
Which is the cool idea in the premise.
Yeah.
Is that those things could happen to you at the same time, and then the Kissinger quote is just pretentious.
There's a film, it might actually be on my stack for Made You Watch, called Matchstick Men, that isn't similar in premise, but in execution.
Oh, okay.
Where it's very lighthearted and kind of fun for the majority of the film, and in the third act we kind of take a turn and get more serious.
Yeah.
The difference is that film stars Nick Cage, Sam Rockwell, and was directed by Ridley Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a real movie.
Well, the fact that it's Patrick Stewart doesn't make it not a real movie. I mean, like, there's nobody else.
Well, but it's a TV movie. And
no, that's true. But I don't think it's fair to be like, well, if only somebody else was in this role.
No. Well, and honestly,
and we should talk about Patrick Stewart. Of course, I mean that's the main reason that I show this to people. He is miscast. I think.
I don't know.
I
think he's misdirected. I think this movie works if you remake this movie today with a better script you could still cast Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart as an action hero is always a problem for me.
But that's part of the thing that I like about the climax is that it is not an action climax.
Well, no, that's
it's
true.
Real quick and to the point.
That's true, and the fact that it's somebody that is because. Okay, what I was thinking is, if you forget that it's a TV movie and just think of it as a movie, this feels like a thing that you would give, like, Bruce Willis way late in his career or something.
I feel like it was written for Sean Connery.
But, yeah, like somebody that actually had done action stuff, but then at the same time, because it's Patrick Stewart, and I'm not saying that, like, he can't do action stuff, of course. I'm just saying that he doesn't look like an action hero. And maybe that actually is smart for a thing like this, where you don't take one look at that guy and be like, oh, well, yes, of course, you were in a shadowy government
It's not like it's Schwarzenegger.
So maybe
like through the entire film.
So maybe that is smart casting in that case. I think. I don't know. I always thought going for somebody who's British as opposed to just making them American in the first place is kind of a strange choice.
I don't think it is because I think almost everyone's go-to spy is James Bond.
Yeah.
Which is why I bet you when this was written, they were like, it's going to be Sean Connery. Like, well, in your head, it's Sean Connery.
Well, and they probably didn't, and who knows? I mean, I haven't looked into the background of this, and there's no special features. But
there's a game.
But I imagine whoever shopped this around, they probably weren't looking at Showtime in the first place. They were probably trying to make
as a TV movie.
They were probably trying to make a movie, yeah.
But. Yeah, I don't think he's miscast, and I think the reason...
I'm starting to change my mind about saying that.
Well, and I think the reason you cast him as opposed to someone like Bruce Willis is Bruce Willis isn't... Well, he's kind of a bad example because he actually has some range in his acting.
Yeah.
But a more generic action hero doesn't have the range to be able to do the Alzheimer's stuff.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely... And of course, that's the reason you get Patrick Stewart, because he's great at that kind of stuff. But... and maybe one of the reasons that I was thinking initially he's kind of miscast is like less miscast and more how does he pick this project? I mean, like this. He's above this material,
and this is.
I mean, it gives him some cool things to do.
It makes me wonder if he was just in like a no man's land post Star Trek before
he wasn't
X-Men.
Because but understand this is not post Star Trek.
I know he's still doing the movies.
Yeah, this is post TNG. This is between Insurrection and but like he's doing more screen stuff at this point than he was before.
How does he end up in this?
I have no idea how he winds up here.
Did his friend write it?
But he was doing a lot of other kind of TV things at the time. I think this was around the time that he did Moby Dick, which I think was a TV movie.
But that makes sense for Patrick Stewart.
No, absolutely. But I'm just saying he wasn't in a no man's land. He was getting cast for things. Patrick Stewart's never in a no man's land because if he's not working in television or movies, he's on stage. So. He's not groping around for projects. If he's, and I might be wrong, but I feel like if he's in a thing, it's because he wanted to do it. Maybe he was maybe somebody cashed in a favor. Like who knows? Maybe just somebody involved in this project, and then he
had some kind of contract with Showtime.
Maybe he just really liked the ending or something. I don't know.
Or he just thought it was better than it was. Because the thing is, I don't think Patrick Stewart's particularly good in this.
Oh, really?
But I'm willing to chalk most of that up to the directing and the cinematography. That being said, the scene...
I think he elevates some of the material. I mean, like it just... You have a hard time imagining some of this dialogue coming out of his mouth. Like, he's doing the best he can with it.
The scene in the kitchen at night when they do the drill and he's holding the pan...
Yeah.
He's great in that scene.
Yeah.
It's a genuinely unsettling scene. Like, you can see him uncomfortable, like, almost like a child.
Well, and this won't mean anything to you, but he's channeling, he's going to the same emotional place in that scene as he does in Sarek and TNG when he mind melds with Spock's father, and he's going through every emotion Sarek has ever wanted to express, and there's a moment like that in that scene, and in Family, there's a bit where he breaks down like that. He's great at breaking down.
But yeah, like, even though it's Patrick Stewart, I don't think he's great in this movie, but I mean, I can't imagine the director was giving him much to work with. The script isn't great. It's a good idea. It almost sounds like, I could almost imagine him signing on before the script is written.
Yeah,
just like, that's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a good idea.
You don't really have a competent writer, yeah. And not anything I've ever exactly seen before or since, like...
No,
not exactly.
I've seen things with similar premises that are almost kind of quirky. Or quirkier.
Well, and you know what? That's another... I keep going back to this, but that's another reason I always wondered about the casting choice with him. Because he's supposed to be eccentric, but it's Patrick Stewart. He doesn't really radiate eccentricity to me.
Yeah, no. I was going to say something about films like this, eccentric.
Just that you said you've seen things kind of like this before.
Yeah, I was going somewhere with that, and I lost it. But not exactly like this. But and more recently, I feel we're doing films with like an eccentric person and going the other way, where like it's not real.
Yeah.
I feel like because the big film I guess I would compare this to maybe is K-Pax. I don't know if you've ever seen K-Pax.
Yeah, I don't like K-Pax.
And
because of the third act, it just breaks down.
It's this problem when you do a film like this.
Don't you think he does too many things in that where it has to be real or it doesn't work? I mean, that was always my issue with K-Pax.
But the ending is that it is real.
I can't remember what it... Well, I haven't seen it since...
The ending
came out.
Is,
I can't remember
the ending
now.
is that it is real.
Okay, then strike that, reverse it. Maybe the deal was it had to not be real or it didn't make sense. I can't remember.
But
I never bought that third act, but like I saw that once and it was probably 10, 15 years ago.
The problem with films like this... and like K-Pax, and kind of what this film I think is doing better theoretically is there are only two options. They are crazy or it is the fantastical thing. And if either way, it feels obvious. Whichever one you choose, it feels obvious. Oh, they're crazy. Okay, well, we're doing a film about somebody with a disease. Oh, they're actually an alien. Okay, well, we're doing that. You know... The idea of it being both is actually kind of an interesting choice that I don't know if I've seen a lot of.
Well, that's a big thing that helps, keep you guessing, where he's just mentally compromised. So he is losing his sanity, but he is right about the more spectacular thing of it. I think a lot of the problem is just, like I said, the writing, and especially in that last scene where we finally reveal that, like, it is a cheap espionage novel.
Well,
and it's like, I don't want to say it's parroting those, but like it kind of talks about those kinds of things and how similar this is to that. There's some pretension in the writing where it acts like it's above that, and it's not. So it just is one of those.
Well, but not until the end. Kind of?
I think there are places where it still kind of feels that way. Not until the very end, but like when he's talking about they're jumping on a plane together, all of that.
Yeah, all of his backstory is really generic spy.
But I don't mean backstory. I mean when he's trying to get her to run away with him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's all.
Yeah.
Cheap paperback novels.
And that all works better if
just the way it's played. I mean, that as a plot point could be there, but I didn't we're jumping around, but at that point, I thought it was a little too easy. I didn't buy that he let her in right then.
Well, and that all works better if he's a crazy person. That, like, he's basing these thoughts on movies and books he's read over and seen over the period of his life.
Precisely. But then when other characters are written like that, too.
Yeah. Well, and, like, there's stuff that, like...
She has the most cheap paperback novel lines in the movie.
Well, and she has that Bagman line, where he like looks at her and she's like, I read a lot of spy books. And like...
And where she says you're the last bagman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I guess that's supposed to be a tell, but it's also not a well-written line, and... I would have made that more of a character trait, or played it more like a character trait, where like, oh, she likes spy books, so she's leaning into his fantasy because she thinks that's kind of interesting. Like, or made it look like that.
Or she thinks that's a healthy thing for her to do right then to help him out, where she's gonna be part of that fantasy for him to then help pull him out of it.
Or even the idea that she's been reading them since she started living with him, so she can theoretically talk on his level or something like that.
Or that she understands, like, she kind of understands superficially that world, but he's in a superficial place with it, so that gives them a commonality.
Yeah, something. There's a lot of things that could be done. I want to say this film is, like, rife with potential.
Yeah, sure.
It's an interesting concept. I mean, I'll say I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
It's not bad enough to be funny, good, bad throughout the entire film. There's a couple of scenes, but it's not...
And that's just because it's Patrick Stewart doing weird anachronistic things for him.
Yeah, it's not good, bad enough, and it's also not good enough. It's a film on potential. This also could be Brian Cox.
Yeah, Brian Cox would be great. But it's immediately a more serious film as Brian Cox. And
I want to see Brian Cox in a big suit waddling around.
He's got the penguin suit.
He's got the big visor.
Speaking of that...
Yes?
Speaking of that, did you buy the car driving straight toward them and him firing at it like that? Like,
no, because the bullets bounced off.
Well, not just that, but why is it driving toward them?
Yeah, not slowing down.
Yeah, it's driving right at them.
There's a lot
and then it turns out it's just the next door neighbor. Like, everything's a fake out until the very end. Mm-hmm. Also, I didn't need the dream sequence.
No. And there's a lot
because that was just cheap at that point. And some of them aren't. Some of them are legit, and then some of them are super cheap.
The mailman one was a little cheap.
No, it's cheap too. Yeah, because like you said, why isn't she there at that point?
Yeah.
Andy, we keep.
And why do none of the pens work? He's like, no. But
because we need that guy to walk in and almost get shot. That's why.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he have live rounds in the guns early? Like, there's a whole lot.
Well, and there's a line where like we cover that later where she's like, I thought we said no more live rounds in the guns. He would not have let that stand.
No, now, I guess what you could say in the, boy, people really have to know this movie to know what we're talking about right now. So, there's a scene where, excuse me. Goodness.
It's only there so they don't die.
Don't worry, we're not contagious through the camera. So, we're both coughing. He likes to do drills in the house, because, again, he's paranoid, he thinks he's going to get killed.
And he has, like, his Pullman come in and, like...
He's the closest thing he has to a friend.
Yeah, come in with a gun and, like try to get him or try to get, like, his maid.
And they never tell anybody about what they're doing or even that he is paranoid about this because they want it to be as real as possible. Mm-hmm. But it also feels like it's kind of fun for him and he gets off on it, and that's one of the things that makes you wonder, if it's really happening or not, where he's living that fantasy. And I like the idea of the drills.
Yeah.
But so what ends up happening is Andy shuts that down when it gets out of hand, and then later, because she's real out of his good graces, they decide together, she and the pool guy, which is kind of fun because she kills him later. But that she and the pool guy get together and decide, well, what if we had a drill that we set up and sprung it on him, and that would be fun for him. And I was thinking, and I think you might have been too, that when they do that, it's like a controlled thing now. He's not in charge of it, and so he doesn't know about it. But we were wondering, like, why isn't it live rounds in the guns? And again, like, she kind of explains it later. But then I was also thinking, okay, but he would know that it's not live rounds, but he's got Alzheimer's. Like, you can chalk so much stuff up to that. Yeah. So he pulls a gun, and in the moment, he's thinking, he thinks it's real, and he's thinking, I'm actually killing these people now. So, like, I don't know if that's actually a problem, the more I'm thinking about it.
I feel like there's a lot of stuff, like we were asking about how can she get into his room.
Well, no, that's a big thing, but I'm just talking about, like in the moment when he does things that it seems like he would be smart enough not to do, you can chalk so much of that up, and that is problematic, where I don't know if the script is being smart about that or not. I don't know if that's what's supposed to be going on, or if you can just chalk it up to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and there's a lot of things where, like, they're really obvious tells that I wasn't sure about because it's a Showtime movie.
Yeah.
But, like, there are things that would be signs to his daughter. Because this is all kind of set off by his daughter because she thinks he's going crazy, and he kind of is.
Who is easily the worst actor in the whole movie.
No, her husband is the worst actor in the whole movie.
Okay, but he doesn't get enough screen time to get that moniker.
Dad.
But yeah, he's pretty...
I've never heard Dad say such condescension.
Don't call me Dad! Eric's just after my money.
But, there's a lot of stuff where I would think one of the bigger tells to them and to the Doctor would be through all of his levels of coherency, his story stays straight.
Yeah, good point.
That should be a thing. The fact that he can break down the gun and put it back together, that should be addressed. They should be like, I don't, like, when would you have learned to do that?
Well, and here's now that you say that, here's the big problem in where things break down in the third act with regards to the daughter and then Andy. So, he has proof.
Mm-hmm.
He won't show it to anyone because he doesn't trust them. I don't buy that he's showing it to Andy when he's showing it to her.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Why is he trusting her even over his daughter? Like, he could have proven that he wouldn't... He might have been able to get himself off of some medication just proving this to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
To her. I mean, like, if... I guess what I'm saying is, if he's going to show it to anybody, it's not going to be the live-in caretaker.
I mean, they bonded a little bit, but...
Well, and they try to squeak past that by saying he needs, in case something happens to him, he needs someone that can make sure that the emails don't get sent out until they need to be sent out. Because the idea is he's got leverage on the guy who's running for president.
Right.
And he has to every day shut down the kill switch. And if something happens to him, they all get sent out. But I guess the idea is if something happens to his mind and he's not actually dead, he wants somebody else to be able to handle all of that. Okay, go to your daughter. Why would you trust this girl over her?
Well, and you don't want to live in the first place. Why wouldn't you show this to your daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's real proof.
Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff in this movie where it's just kind of concept over execution. Like, it's all good ideas that just needed to be worked out better. For this film to really work, genuinely work, not well, this is all the evidence, but I'm going to ignore it because I think they're dumb making the movie. You have to have a really tight...
You want to start from that place.
You have to have a really tight script.
Yeah.
You have to be aware of everything that he could and could not do, and the believability to the audience. Like, you have to actually care to make this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't. It's a Showtime movie.
Well, because it's supposed to be, a thick, serious psychological thriller, but it's also, got those comedy elements,
which can work. Like I said,
no, I think so too.
Magic Men's kind of a film like that.
I just think they're taking over a little bit because we're not taking it seriously in the first place. Like, to a degree, it is a so bad it's good movie. It is you're laughing at it. Like, I still think I'm laughing at things that it doesn't that I'm not.
No,
supposed to be laughing
absolutely.
And that there are places where it's supposed to be charming and it's not quite working.
It's really paint by numbers.
Yeah.
It's really TV, almost sitcom-y.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It doesn't work on either level. It's not so bad it's good, but it's not good enough that it rises above being a Showtime movie.
No, it's not.
And I've seen TV movies that, like, they're not great, but for what they are, there's an HBO movie called Cast Deadly Spell. Doesn't have great production values, not great acting.
The script's okay.
The script's okay. It's a fun movie, and it knows what it is. You can get past a lot of these drawbacks of being a TV movie.
Sure. No, absolutely.
But this could have been a crappy movie that went to theaters.
Well, no, it could have been. And, like, my favorite version of A Christmas Carol is Patrick Stewart's, and that was a TV movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's got production value issues, but the script is solid.
Yeah,
and
Well,
all the acting
Christmas
in that,
Carol.
and all the acting in that, you say, yeah, but they still could have screwed it up.
Yeah.
All the acting in that is solid. There are bits of that get closer to the novel than a lot of things had before that.
Mm-hmm.
We've had things since then, but.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just saying. So yeah, I'm not just lobbing TV movie at it. But one of the things that hurts it is just genericification. There's bits where they're listening to music that he clearly knows, but it's like the most stock, like, elevator music.
That bothered you more than it bothered me.
I
was just
really
like,
don't like that.
That was a real, like, that's a TV movie, whatever.
But the fact that it's a TV movie makes that worse for me, because it doesn't feel, and maybe they did, but it doesn't feel like something somebody wrote for that movie. It feels like stock music that they pulled, and the idea that he would know that so well while he was dancing, that it's like a song he likes to play, I can't deal with that kind of thing, because nobody does that.
It feels like they got, like, a sitcom writer to do a movie that was supposed to be both a psychological and kind of a thriller film.
Yeah, maybe so.
We're like, because, like, when we get to the action stuff at the end, you've heard all of these lines. They are the most generic dialogue. Like, it's not like the person writing this clearly doesn't, like, really like that kind of genre or hasn't been like burning to write a spy movie.
I pointed this out to you, or maybe they have been, but they're not qualified. Then you do some more research.
That's true too.
Because it did feel that
true as well.
I don't like. I don't agree with you when you say that this movie in the script and stuff they're not trying. I think maybe they are. And I think that they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, I think it's that kind of thing. Because it feels like I read a couple of spy thriller novels, and so I'm gonna write one of those.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel authentic. But I pointed this out to you while we were watching it. But the line that jumped out to me the most that she has at the end, that's like really generic and doesn't make sense, and I hate. And this is a pet peeve of mine. Is when she says that she's being paid more money than he can imagine. That's a cliche line I always really hate. More money than you can... I can imagine a lot of money. How much is more money than you can imagine?
That's the exact response Han Solo gives.
Yeah, I never like it. But because it's in Star Wars, maybe we shouldn't use it in this movie. This movie.
I think something that makes it work, that would make it work better, is the ending should be a double climax. You should have him have his break and lose it, and then watching the movie you're like, okay, so he is crazy the whole time, and then have her turn, and he should already be broken when he stops, or like almost he could like stop her through muscle memory kind of a thing, but he's gone.
What if they got him at a nursing home?
Yeah,
something like that. What if he goes to a nursing home and that's where they get him? One thing you gotta kind of wonder is, okay, so let me start over. I was gonna say, one thing you gotta wonder is why she waits as long as she does to kill him. Well, the reason is because she's after the information,
and she has to get it.
Okay, so we're supposed to think that she's manipulated him to that point. I don't get that. That's
And what would she have done if she hadn't gotten the job?
Here's the other question. Well, maybe she just would have come to him directly, but and tried to force it out of him. But here's the other question. They're picking off all of the other people that he worked with. Do they have kill switches?
Yeah.
And did they get them first?
Can't. I don't know. Maybe it's...
Why is he the only one with this information? I mean, I guess, was he the top guy?
He's the only one that set up a kill switch. Like, maybe they all have the information, but he was the only one smart enough to set up a kill switch.
Maybe so, yeah. But why wouldn't he tell them to do that?
To go to the standard, like, spy cliche kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
She's trying to get close to him. Why doesn't she sleep with him?
Yeah.
Because they kind of set that up twice. They set it up as like a, haha,
maybe
we got
that's
you.
Gonna happen.
They didn't sleep together. Why doesn't she?
And I mean, at
he's
first
an old man.
At first, it's refreshing that doesn't happen. But then once you know all the pieces,
it would seem like she would.
Yeah, because she's going to make an obscene amount of money, so she's not going to mind doing obscene things.
Patrick Stewart's not a terrible looking guy.
Sure.
But yeah, like that. Once you know what she is, it makes more sense if she sleeps with him.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it's just there's a lot of holes. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, it's not great. It was enjoyable. I don't want my time back. But I wish it was worse.
I mean, some of those weird. I mean, some of those like really funny. I never thought I'd see Patrick Stewart do that moments is totally worth the whole thing, I think. I mean, some of that's just because I'm a big Patrick Stewart fan.
Well, but some of that certainly is lost on me because I do know him more, or not more as a comedic guy, but I know him for comedic things. I know he's a silly guy.
Yeah. So he would do those kind of, yeah.
I've heard him swear before.
And like I said, it doesn't have the same. I mean, of course I've seen it a few times, but like it doesn't play the same way to me now than it does back then. And it's not just because I've seen it a lot. It's because I've seen him do silly things now.
Yeah. I wish it was.
But you mother effers are killing all my lilies. That's really funny.
No, that's good.
Well, and then it seems like there's even another thing he says later on that's pretty great. Oh, and the whole thing where she's trying to make him a macrobiotic dinner. And he goes off and gets a Twinkie and a Coke and a bag of M&Ms. That's pretty great.
No, that's good. I'm not saying there's not good stuff in here, but I wish it was worse so I could laugh at it more, or I wish it was a little bit better so I could give it to
on its own terms.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So yeah, like I enjoyed watching it. It's not something I would go back to often.
Well, like I said, I only go back to it to show it to people that haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much I'm going to do that now, just because it's. I feel like this sounds like a stupid thing to say, but you know why I'm saying this. It's kind of outdated for that now.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a dated film in general, but
I just mean,
and now Patrick Stewart
look at Patrick Stewart doing
yeah.
goofy things.
We can see that.
Yeah, but anyway, so but you know this is one of those movies that I have been making people watch before he made me watch, so I felt like obligatorily it must go on the list.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fun. We didn't do this on purpose, but it's kind of fun right around the election watching this.
Yep. And it's something that's, I mean, probably more in my wheelhouse than yours in being like a spy thriller.
And that's why I thought
that.
You'd like it less even than I did, because
like
it does that
premise.
stuff badly.
Yeah.
Like there's so much been there, done that, and stereotypical and like I would think for that genre.
And all of his backstory stuff is really generic, but the premise I think is solid enough. I kind of want someone to remake this.
Yeah.
And I think you could cast Patrick Stewart now. I think he could do this again and do it better with a better director.
I think he could do it better because he actually looks more the age of the character he's playing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a thing.
Yep.
Where he's supposed to be an aging old senile guy. Oh, my life is over. And Patrick Stewart just has always looked too good for his age.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's gonna play 65 and getting senile, he's got to be 80 first. I mean, that's Patrick Stewart. You know.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah. One more thing.
Yeah, sure.
So there's this character who walks on screen and does like this bad impression. And
I thought you might want to talk about that.
And the moment he comes in, I say,
the Cagney, or
yeah, it's Cagney.
Yeah.
He goes, it's Cagney, and then Patrick Stewart says, no, it's not. But
you're gonna tell me that's Patrick Stewart? No, it's not. No, that was pretty good Stewart.
But he's got this endearing character trait where he just does voices for no reason. And it's not charming. Dan. Tori. Who does character voices for no reason sometimes.
Oh, does he? Is that...
Yeah, you've spoken to Dan.
Have I? You're just putting me on the spot with this. I don't really know what we're talking about.
Well, you know how, like, whenever we're like, okay, it's time to record, and then he does, like, a walk-in, or he'll do, like...
Oh, I guess so.
You know, he does character voices.
Oh, okay, all right. He'll do walk-in. That's more just Dan. I'm trying to get the video started. Not you're doing impressions. Yeah, okay, I guess that's true.
No, he does. Sometimes he just does weird voices. You'll be like, how's your day going? And, like, he'll respond to weird... I know he does weird voices. Just calling him out.
I don't think he does that as often.
It's not amusing, Dan.
He was doing it when you were there. You haven't talked to Dan.
It's real sad when Dan dies. But
we know it's coming because that's his quirky character trait. Sorry, Dan, but you're dead.
Which is what I said when this character showed up. As I was like, oh, he's got a quirky character trait. So we'll miss him when he's dead. And then you laughed. And that's exactly what happened.
I laughed because I knew that was coming.
He dies at the end, and I missed him because he had a character.
Well, and you were like, boy, we're gonna miss him when he dies. And I'm like, no, we're not. I knew that was coming.
No, and that's bad writing 101. It's like Independence Day.
We just rolled a dice for character trait, and we did that. I gotta mention that too. The cutting coupons thing.
Yeah,
I don't know
just
what that is.
And it drops. Like, we kind of keep the coupons around, but he stops being like, make sure you use the coupons.
Yeah, because he's obsessive and he's paranoid, but he's not so obsessive compulsive. He's not anal retentive. I feel like that's a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. But anyway, what were you saying about Independence Day?
Independence Day has that, where Will Smith's like best friend is this kooky guy who does weird voices. That's like, oh, we're gonna miss him when he dies. We never do. Writers, stop doing this. We never miss these characters. But like that's a thing. Like when someone is going to die, like they're like, well, we have to do something to make them endearing. What if they did silly voices? What if they made bad jokes? Like, it's a thing.
What if they wore a stupid hat?
Yeah, things
something
like that. Yeah,
and they usually play as the comic relief character that then, oh look, we're turning that on its head because they're not just there to make you laugh. They're gonna get to do,
they're gonna make you cry,
or maybe even they're obnoxious and then at the end, it's okay that they were obnoxious because it turns out there's really something good and, like you said, endearing about them, and they and usually they end up making the epic sacrifice. That's also an Independence Day thing.
Yeah.
But the thing with a movie like this is you don't need comic relief because your protagonist is already providing it.
Well, and the stuff between him and Andy is played so kind of lighthearted anyways. You don't really need a comic relief character.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, thanks a lot for watching. Sure appreciate it. And Eric's going to give me my comeuppance next time and make me watch something else. And we'll see if it's something that Eric ends up
It's not a TV
really
movie,
liking,
but it's a direct-to-video film.
Oh, okay. We'll see if it's something Eric really likes or something that he's picking like this because he's just got to see my reaction to it.
Well, I know what it is. It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
It's not something I love because I've only seen it once, but it's a little bit of both.
Awesome. Well, we'll do that for you soon. Thanks again for watching. Sure appreciate it. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
See you next time.